Here's a story about our social media people in conjunction with the government just deciding to deplatform people. Rania Kalek, who's been a friend of our show, she's been on. She's been on to tell us the stuff about the Middle East and Syria, and she does these great videos for In the Now. It's called, right? And so she tweeted this out. Facebook has suspended all of In the Now's Facebook pages, apparently in coordination with CNN, on the grounds that In the Now doesn't disclose who funds it. Here's the article by CNN. Russia is backing a viral video company aimed at American millennials.
Oh, geez.
Oh, Jesus. I know. God damn it.
At this point, it's like, again. They're doing it again.
This is by Daniel O'Sullivan, Drew Griffin, Kurt Devine. It took 4 motherfuckers to write a bullshit article. 4 people to write this bullshit article. Isn't that amazing? Daddy O'Sullivan. When I grow up, I want to do propaganda for a corporation that pushes war and fires people for telling the truth about Israel.
Well,
So what?
I'm curious. I don't remember off the top of my head, but some of those names look mildly familiar.
Were they involved in the CNN smear of
That's
this show?
what I'm trying to Google right now, actually.
I don't know.
Because I don't recall off the top
I
of
don't
my
know.
head.
I don't think so. I think these are fresh. These are fresh CNN propagandists. This is fantastic crap they're doing. This is amazing. You imagine you get into journalism, you end up doing this stuff. You end up writing pure propaganda for a corporation, and you end up actually printing things that hurt the people who come to you for information. Can you imagine that's what you do with your life? There are 3 online video channels designed to appeal to millennials, have collected tens of millions of views on Facebook since September. But the pages pushing the videos do not disclose they are backed by the Russian government. Okay, all right. I didn't know you had to put who funded you when you put up a video. I didn't know that because we have lots of different funders at this show. We have over 3,000 people who fund us through Patreon. We have probably another couple thousand people through PayPal. So we have a lot of people that fund our show. Do I have to name every one of them every time I put up a video? The pages are run by Mafic Media, a company whose majority stakeholder is Ruptly. They're a subsidiary of RT, which is funded by the Russian government. So Ruptly is a subsidiary of RT, and RT is funded by the Russian government. Although Mafic Media has hired contractors and freelancers in Los Angeles in recent months, the company is not registered in the United States. It is registered in Germany. An ally.
So what they probably do, or what they probably did to, justify this on their end, is when the FARA Act was enacted against RT America, which, by the way, why does the FARA Act exist in the first place? It existed to combat Nazis.
Yeah.
They decided to use it again recently against RT and against, I believe, a Chinese outlet, Shanghai News.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably did that. Like, oh, well, we can trace it back to RT, so we're going to employ the FARA Act here and use this to kick them off of Facebook.
So we'll get this, Ron. Facebook suspended the pages on Friday, saying it would reach out to the people running them to ask that they disclose where the pages are run from and their affiliation with their parent company in order to get back on the platform. Here's the really, really interesting part. The move was unusual for Facebook. Why was it unusual? Well, the company doesn't require users to provide information of its parent companies. So you don't even have to do that. And they decided to just take their page down anyway, preemptively. Hey, yeah, we have a new rule we didn't tell you about. Oh, by the way, in the meantime, you're in solitary confinement. So Jack from Twitter was just on Joe Rogan a week ago, and he said that he thought social media was a right. The guy who runs Twitter said social media is a right. Well, if the president's there, if the whole country's there and the president can't block you, that's a town square. That's a public utility. So now they're all, again, I predicted this to happen. It doesn't take a dumb guy like me can see this coming. So that's why all the people pushing Russiagate and shutting up about the censorship is disgusting that it's happening on the left. I'm meaning the shutting up part. They're not calling out Russiagate's McCarthy smears of Tulsi Gabbard. They didn't scream bloody murder when the first 800 pages got purged from Facebook. They didn't scream when they're not screaming about this, about a censorship being done in the dark. This is being done in the dark. They didn't. Did you see what it's in? It's in red. Facebook does not require users to provide information about parent companies, but it is rolling out ways to try and increase transparency. Transparency? How about transparency in who decides who gets free speech at Facebook? How about that kind of transparency? Transparency for you, but for them, a lot of oblique shit. Opaque stuff, right? Darkness for Facebook, transparency for everybody else. It has been taking aggressive steps to tackle covert government-backed information. So they've been aggressively censoring people on bullshit information with double standards and rules that aren't even published. The Mafic media pages appear to have fallen into a gray area for... This is CNN writing. They have fallen into a gray area in Facebook. What's that gray area? Well, the pages do not include information about their links to the Russian government, but they were not previously required to do it. So they just made up a new standard in the middle of the night and deplatformed people for it.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to hide behind FARA. That's what, if they haven't done it already, that's what they're going to be able to do here. And that should have never been enacted. And we were one of the few shows to talk about that while it was going on and say how terrible it was. And I believe Rania talked about it on this show.
Yes.
We talked about it with her.
I can't believe that how silent most of the lefty media has been on this. So here she is. And she talks about that. And let me just set the stage. This is from Real News. This was an interview they did with Maxim Blumenthal. And I just want to so they say corporates, this was back in October. This is what this is coming from. When they took away those first 800 pages, the corporate social media giants have begun purging huge alternative media outlets as part of a larger crackdown on political views that challenge mainstream politics and media. That's what this is. In early October, Facebook removed 800 pages and accounts targeting left-wing media outlets, libertarian pages, police transparency pages, and monitored police brutality, and also anti-war pages. So this has already happened. We covered it. Almost no one else did. Some of these pages, like the Free Thought Project, had millions of likes. A new report at the Gray Zone Project, which is grayzoneproject.com, reveals how an influential neoconservative operative in Washington, D.C. has actually claimed at least partial credit for this unprecedented social media censorship by Facebook. This guy, Jamie Fly, who was a neoconservative in D.C., who has previously worked for Senator Marco Rubio and also previously was at the Defense Department under George W. Bush, Jamie Fly made the following remarks in which he claimed partial credit in an interview published by the Gray Zone Project. He claimed partial credit for these purges. So listen to this. He said, quote, "So we're just getting started. We're just starting to push back. Just starting to push back." That was the 800 pages purged last October. So now here it goes again. We're just getting started. Just this last week, Facebook began starting to take down sites. So this is just the beginning. That is a quote from Jamie Fly, a neoconservative in D.C. He is a senior fellow and director of the Asia program at the influential D.C.-based think tank, the German Marshall Fund. The German Marshall Fund? Well, where have I heard the German Marshall Fund before? Oh, that's right. The German Marshall Fund has been pushing Russiagate propaganda like at the top of their lungs and smearing Jeremy Corbyn as a Russian bot and an anti-Semite. That's with government money. Government money, they're smearing progressive politicians as Russian bots and anti-Semites. That's what the German Marshall Fund has been doing. And so now they're basing this stuff from the German Marshall Fund has been instrumental in this latest in the now being purged from Facebook. The German Marshall Fund was created during the Cold War as a West German organization that worked with the United States. And actually, it is funded by the U.S. government and the German government. It also receives funding from NATO. So the German fund, so this is the government censoring people at Facebook. That's what this is telling you. Here we are talking about Truthdig, which I contribute to and was founded by Bob Scheer, who is one of the most renowned progressive journalists in the country. Counterpunch, very well-known left-wing alternative site, Black Commentator. We all know Glenn Ford, and he's been a frequent guest on The Real News, and sites like Free Thought Project and Anti-Media, which were recently purged by Facebook. That's Max Blumenthal talking to The Real News about the purges that they did already. These are not Kremlin-influenced accounts. They have no connection to Russia. These are what we are known of as our alternative media. So now, this is the German Marshall Fund, the Atlantic Council. This is the government funding censorship. And if Jack on Twitter was right, that social media is a right, they're taking away your rights in the dark of night without a clear standard. And done by unnamed bureaucrats, unelected, unnamed billionaires in Silicon Valley. And all this is to drive off the evildoers who are challenging American state violence, like the websites that were recently purged by Facebook. So this whole thing ties into the Russiagate sham. So this is all part of it. And I love what he says about it. He goes, the idea behind the sham is you hype up the fear of Russian interference to carry out your real goal, which is taking place right now in real time before our eyes, which is to multiply American power and consolidate control of the national security state. I'm going to read that to you again. The real goal of the Russiagate thing and all that, there's plenty of other different. It serves the purpose of the media because they make more money off it, just like they make more money off war and make more money off Trump. It serves the Democratic Party because they don't have to examine how corrupt they were or change anything. It serves the media. Again, it serves the intelligence community. It serves the military industrial complex. So Russiagate serves a lot of people. But this sham, the whole goal of it, the goal of this is taking place right now in real time before our eyes, which is to multiply American power and consolidate control of the national security state. So if you're pushing Russiagate mindlessly, breathlessly for the entirety of your news show night after night, you're doing the work of the government. You're doing propaganda for the government. There's no fucking two ways about that, especially now that the Senate intelligence community has admitted there's absolutely no evidence of criminal collusion between Trump and Russia, yet you still do this. You're doing propaganda. You're not alternative media. If you're not covering Tulsi Gabbard's smear, if you're not covering the McCarthyite smears here, if you're not covering this, and if you're repeating Russiagate, you are not alternative media. You are establishment mouthpieces pushing propaganda. What you should be doing is doing what Gray Zone Project does, or The Real News, or what we do at this show, is debunk this bullshit. The bipartisan national security state over these social. So right now, let me just get back to this point. The real point of all of this is to multiply American power and consolidate control of the national security state, the bipartisan national security state. There is no anti-war party. Over these social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram, which represents our digital commons. So all this is to make sure that the security state has control over social media because they can't control. They got freaked out. Oh my God. Bernie Sanders freaked people out. They're screaming. Lefties are screaming CNN sucks. Righties are screaming CNN sucks. They're going to alternative media for their news. We can't have this. And that's what all this is about. So shame on all the lefties pushing Russiagate. Shame on them forever. And here, this is another great quote from Max Blumenthal. He said, I was talking about how Russiagate was going to create blowback. He says that it was going to make this country less democratic. It's another manufactured campaign of fear ginned up by neoconservatives as they did during the War on Terror after 9/11 in order to de-democratize us and to control what we see and hear. And that's what's taking place on social media. It is the government, once again, censoring you and trying to control what you see and hear and ultimately what you think. This is thought control. This is the thought police. They're kicking people off not because of their funding, but because of what they're talking about. They're afraid of their ideas. This is the thought police, and everybody pushing Russiagate is part of it. So here, I want to tell you who the German defense fund. So here's Ben Norton. He goes, this explosive scoop by Jeb Sprague and Max Blumenthal is confirmation that the social media purge of alternative media outlets is part of a government-backed political crackdown on dissident voices. And he links to the Gray Zone Project, and he says, a hardline neoconservative operative at the German Marshall Fund think tank, which is funded by the U.S. and German governments, said that within the mass purge of alternative media outlets, we are just starting to push back. This is the beginning. These are the government's doing. This is your government money, is censoring people on social media. That's what's happening. Huh? And they're worried about Trump. Trump's the guy who's the maniac? Trump is the guy who's going to take my rights away? Trump is the guy who's going to suppress my free speech? I think this is a bipartisan effort. Which is why they're afraid of independent voices. The D.C.-based think tank, the German Marshall Fund, whose Alliance for Securing Democracy helped popularize the absurd Russian bots are hacking our democracy scare, just so happens to be funded by NATO and the U.S. So there it is. So they're getting there, and he links to he shows you how they're funded by them. So that's where this is coming from. And CNN doesn't put that in their reports. Isn't that amazing? CNN leaves out all the important stuff, but they put in all the propaganda. All the propaganda to confuse you and control how you think, CNN puts that in. All the stuff that I just told you, they leave out. And now you know why CNN sucks. And now you know why they actually know who this show is and why they make a special effort to smear shows like this. That's who CNN is, and I can't wait for them to smear us again because it only makes us stronger. So let me throw it to my panel. So there they are, taken down in the now. So, by the way, Renya Kalik says, this is weeks after CNN's digging around to find dirt on us. We then reached out to CNN and let them interview us, which felt more like a police interrogation. The interviewer didn't like my anti-war political views and even attacked my criticisms of Trump's coup in Venezuela. Let me go there. This is the case where the U.S. government has found a legal loophole to suppress speech. In this case, speech that is critical of destructive U.S. government policies around the world. Even if you hate what I say in my videos, you should be outraged by this speech suppression. And CNN should be ashamed for helping the U.S. government suppress speech they don't like. They claim to be for free speech and open media, but their behavior in coordinating with Facebook to shut down In the Now shows what BS that is. CNN isn't state media, but it sure acts like it. One more thing, Facebook suspended us on the grounds we don't disclose we receive funding from Rupply, whose parent company is RT. But this standard is not applied to NPR, AJ+, or TRT. It's discrimination, part of a McCarthy witch hunt. She also had one more. I can't find it. Oh, this is great. This is what I want to show you. On a side note, CNN kept asking if I have editorial control over In the Now. I do. The interviewer didn't believe me. So I asked where Mark Lamont Hill's editorial freedom was when CNN fired him for telling the truth about Israel occupation of Palestine. The response was crickets. So they work for CNN. I don't know how you can, as a journalist in conscience, work for CNN when they fired Mark Lamont Hill for telling the truth about Israel. Just like I don't know how you can work for MSNBC when they fired Phil Donahue, Jesse Ventura, Ashley Banfield for telling the truth about war. And then they fired Ed Schultz for just covering Bernie Sanders. I don't know how in good conscience you can work for those organizations. So I don't know how you can work for CNN like that. I know how. Money, and you don't have a lot of character or integrity. And you don't have the balls that we have at this show to stick our own chin out and do our own fucking show. You think you're such a good reporter? Do your own reporting. Why do you need CNN? Why do you need their platform? Start doing reporting. We're doing reporting here. We almost have 500,000 followers. For a fucking jagoff nightclub comedian. You know why? Because I see right through CNN. And so do they. People see right fucking through you. You're propagandists. You always have been, and you always will be, which is why you smear people who tell the truth about war. Guys like Jake Tapper lie to us about health care. They say Medicare for all costs more than our current system. CNN is one big bullshit parade. And so anybody going to work there shows that they're interested in not really journalism. They're interested in having a job. So that's great. That's a great response. And that's why I'll never be on fucking CNN, because I will bring that up. Just like I'll never be on MSNBC, because I'll bring up the firing of Phil Donahue and Jesse Ventura and Ashley Banfield and Ed Schultz. And if you ever see someone who calls himself a progressive who gets a chance to go on MSNBC and doesn't bring that shit up, well, then that's all you need to know about them. We're announcing our live dates for 2019. We're going to Chicago and Portland, Seattle, New York, all over the country. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets to all our shows. It'll be right underneath there, too. Please become a patron if you like our content and help support the show. You can become a patron for $5 a month, and we give you hours of bonus material. And make sure you're subscribed. They unsubscribe people every day. I'm not kidding. Make sure you're subscribed and click that bell so they give you a notice when we drop a video. It's the only thing we can do to fight back against the bastards. Thanks for your support.